Yeah, and what that means is, in reference to making it so that games are more accessible to people who wouldn't otherwise have been able to play them due to physical limitations,
Yeah,
whether it's things like poor eyesight, if you need things to be made more visible, that sort of thing.
yeah, that is correct. What in the reason what I want to talk about what I want to talk about this is because PlayStation is like the gold standard when it comes to accessibility, but all the developers are not. PlayStation is pretty good when it comes to accessibility. The, most most PlayStation 5 games they come with a accessibility feature, aim assist, automatically QTEs, and bunch of navigation assistance. You can resize the subtitles for people who have bad eyesight, but that is not actually the standard, and that is my this, and that is what I want to do this video today to bring awareness to that because I think that should become a standard. What do you think about that?
I wholeheartedly agree. Um, Now, obviously, one of the main hurdles in that is, unfortunately, the fact that these companies only see profit in developing games. And while there is very clearly profit to be made by making games more accessible, they, on the business end of things, don't necessarily see it that way uh, because they would probably think that it's potentially alienating those who aren't that way, which is absolutely ridiculous. And the other part of that is it means putting more money into the game, more production costs to add in those features. Even if adding in those features is not necessarily expensive, to them it could still take time away from the project. And sadly, uh, as you know, of investors, a lot of investors don't know a thing about game development. They probably know even less than I do.
Yeah.
And they're so obsessed with having control over things and getting what they want out of something, as opposed to just giving the fans, the purchasers, what they want. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know if you wanted to discuss how to actually do that, how to actually go about making changes to where investors are more on board with. It looks like you have a viewer. Whether or
Yeah.
not you wanted to talk about the way in which you get investors on board with something like that, or if we're just talking about spreading awareness and ways in which you can make them more accessible.
My point of having this conversation is because I want to bring awareness to people that this is an issue. People don't think this is an issue. People don't take video games seriously, but for most people, video games is a way for people to relax. And and me as a disabled person, I should be able to have the same. I should have the same opportunity as everybody else to enjoy and relax and to enjoy again. And I don't see and I don't see why adding accessibilities would infringe on people on other people enjoying the game like you imply. Because if you don't want to play with accessibilities, you don't have to.
Right. But here's the thing: they don't see it that way. The investors, let's be honest, they're not too bright. They they don't understand that that isn't the case. They don't understand that the customer is going to realize that, yes, I can just turn this off. And unfortunately, there are people out there who would complain about that because they just need to have everything be the way they want it to be and alienate everyone else. Um, but you're absolutely right. Yeah, there's no reason why. Like, imagine this as an example, right? Let's say that we're talking about a game that has QTEs in it, and a
Like
player
God of
is just,
War.
well,
I'm playing it right now.
right, but you're talking about an older game. We're talking about new games, unless you meant a
Yeah.
remaster. Now, if it was a remaster, like, let's say Sony decides that they're going to bring back the older games, they're going to give them a graphical update, they're going to fine tune the gameplay, and they're also going to add in an accessibility option to where you can either do the QTEs by simply pressing one button and not doing it really fast, or actually that wouldn't work. A better way to do that would probably be you have a set number of buttons that the person has to press in an order, but it's not immediate. So like you just press. Let's say that the QTE was triangle, X, circle, square. You would just hit triangle, then X, then circle, then square, and only after all those buttons had been pressed would it finally register. Also, any viewers, please consider leaving a like. It'll help. It'll help the
Yeah.
stream. Um, I noticed that sometimes it'll go up to two, so just trying to say that just in case. But yeah, like that would be a way to do that.
Yeah.
Um, you know, um,
Yeah. Yeah, one other thing, that I wanted to tell you was, and thank you that person that you joined. Please leave a like. We are talking about video game accessibility, so please leave a like before you leave. So one thing that I wanted to tell you, I wanted to hear your opinion about that was that I bought the access controller. Uh, and the access controller is like a circle with a lot of buttons that you can change and that you can remap the way that you want. But the way the access controller was designed, in order for me to use the access controller, I need to have another access controller. Do you understand that? Because
I
the access controller only has one stick.
yeah, that's because in because you would need a controller for both movements. You would need a
In
joystick for both
camera.
movement and the camera. Yeah. So
So so let me finish. I don't know what Genius and Sony. I was very excited when I saw that. What Genius and Sony thought that was a good idea. I know what they did it because that way they can charge you for a second controller. And and that controller is like $80. So it's not, because we need to understand that these companies don't do these things because but the bottom of the heart, or they believe in accessibility. They do it because they want to attract customers, and not only that, they do most of the stuff. They do it not because it's the right thing to do. They do it just for PR purposes.
yeah, absolutely. Um, now I know this is not easily remedied. I would never claim to be a game developer or know much about game development in general, but I'd imagine that it is possible if you work at it to make it so that you could have a feature in the game where the camera just moves automatically so that when using this controller you wouldn't have to have another joystick because the game would just move the camera for you, or you make it so that Um, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say this because this is getting a little bit too futuristic here, shall we say? But you could
Please,
have an AI
excuse me.
system. Yeah.
Please, thank you. Thank you for joining and leaving a like, please.
Um,
We have one viewer.
yeah. It's a shame we weren't able to do this on my channel. We probably would have had a decent amount more. But hey, it is what it is. Um,
Yeah.
so
But tomorrow we can do it on your channel. We just need to
right,
figure out a way to do it.
we'll just do a second one. I mean, but at the same time, if we were to do another one, it almost kind of feels like a waste because we could just go with this one. And I'm not worried about it sounding more professional because this is off the cuff.
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm not good at planning things out. I'm not going to sit down and write out a script to, you know, to base
Mm.
a stream
Yeah.
discussion around.
No,
Um,
no. No, 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 no. Oh,
so, so I'd never heard of that controller until you pointed it out to me.
no, no. And the access controller is pretty good because the access controller allow me for the first time because I was able to map the controllers. It allowed me to do to be able to complete the QTEs in God of War 3 because I it was a still hard, but it was better than it was better than the actual controller.
Right.
Uh, but but to me to me the access controller is not it's not uh, to me they could have done something better with the access controller because the access controller is not it's not what the access controller is by itself. It's almost unplayable in my opinion. I don't know how Sony allow that to come out like that. And the reason is because you have to in order for the access controller to be able to be useful, you have to buy additional accessories. Like
Okay.
but but the access controller is like $60 by itself, and and you need to understand too. The most the most video games are expensive
Hey,
as
Emily,
it
how's
is,
it going? From my channel, actually, one of my viewers. I think.
but 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 people 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 in the disabled community are even poorer than your average gamer. So it's not like they can afford it.
That's true. That's true. And unfortunately, money's always going to be a factor. Uh, and you know, it seems to me like when they designed this, uh, I, I mean, you can never be too sure, but it would be very in character for investors to find out about this or higher ups to find out about this and say, hey, design it this way so that if they really want to use it to its fullest potential, they'll have to spend more money on accessories, and that makes us more money off of this. Instead of, no, let's just design this controller to do what it's supposed to do without there needing to be any extras. Um, and it's, you know, it makes something that could be a good thing ultimately seem like a bad thing because it's like you're promising so much but not delivering. It's almost cruel. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I was I was to be honest with you, I was let down by that controller because that controller by itself is almost unusable because it's only got one joystick. And how are you able to play most games? You need to use two joysticks, one for moving and one for the camera. So how are you going to play? And I felt really bad because I didn't buy that access controller with my own money. That was my Christmas gift because my stepfather wanted me to enjoy to be able to enjoy gaming more because he knows that I like to play video games, and then sometimes I struggle with that and that. But the access controller let me down because how do you use it without how do you use it without a second joystick? You have to buy additional accessories, and with the price is like $60 or $70, then with the accessories it's almost $100.
Yes. Question. What's the name of this channel?
Ah, it's my name.
Right,
Ah,
but I don't because I was gonna go onto the stream through my account and leave a like. Uh,
yeah. I give it you after the fact. Okay.
yeah, I'll just spread the word. Um,
Yeah, and I'm
yeah,
so- and I'm sorry. And people are watching zero views
no,
and
no, no,
zero
it's
likes.
perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. I just figured that if I could find this channel, maybe I could leave a like while it's live. And if I knew the name, I could even share it with people and say, "Hey, this, you know, this is live at the moment. Consider, dropping a like on this uh, to get more awareness." But um, it's no big deal. Um, getting back on topic. Um, yeah, I honestly.
Yeah, and
So
and the, and could I finish my point? And the thing that if makes me angry the most is that the things that I'm asking are not that difficult because I'm able to do them on the PC.
right, yeah,
Like, like I was playing a game where I had to do a QTE, and you know what I did? I went to hotkeys, and I wrote in a script telling the computer what I wanted to do, and I just had to press a button, and the computer did it for me with a script from hotkeys. So why Sony can can even implement something like that on on games? That if I can do it, Sony can.
do you want to
Uh,
know the answer to that question?
yeah, please tell me. I have my
Limitations. Limitations. The only way to make that happen with Sony would be for Sony to develop a gaming computer as opposed to a console, because you know I don't like I obviously don't know the reason for why this is the case, but
no no
gaming a
I
gaming computer will always be capable of doing things that a console can't. So it might not be as simple as Sony not doing it intentionally. It could just be due to the hardware itself,
no
where
I know why they I know you probably right, but I know why they don't do it too. It's because if they allow people to tinker with the games, a lot of those games are played comparatively, and a lot of people are going to cheat. If
That's yeah.
if 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 they allow something like that, I I'm able to do it on the computer because the computer give me more freedom and allow me to bypass a lot of securities that Steam might have because the computer is less secure than the console. So it allowed me to think it was a game more. But if people were allowed to think it with their console more, people would cheat even harder. And they cheat
Not
right now.
necessarily. Not necessarily. You would just need to have um you would just need to have very strict rules and need to keep watch over the players to ensure that they don't do that. Because at the end of the day, if a person's going to cheat, a person's going to cheat. Doesn't matter how. It doesn't matter how. They will find a way.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah, I know I agree with you. There is a saying that where there's a will, there is a way.
exactly. So, like, I wouldn't say that that's a reason why necessarily. It could be a reason why, but I think for me, what like another way to do this is people who have disabilities, depending on who the person is and what the disability is, they might not have enough reaction speed to do certain things. So what if there was a way to make it so that the game kind of slows down during the button inputs and then speeds it right back up? Um, I don't know if this was. I'm sure this wasn't done for accessibility purposes, but if you'll recall the game, the remake of Final Fantasy VII, where when you play that to do the most damage, you'll hit a button to bring up a menu, which more or less stops the game or slows it down, and then you can move the camera around and you can plan out your attacks and you can hit a certain button, and then once you've hit that button, it goes out of that window, or it speeds the game back up again, or it goes out of that mode, and then you perform the attack. So maybe something similar to that being implemented into games with quick time events, so that it's slowed down to the point to where you can take your time and you can hit the necessary keys, and
Yeah.
then once you've punched them in, that mode turns off, and they're pressed as if you had done it
Yeah.
the regular
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. That sounds like a good idea because one problem because there are games out there that have great accessibility, at least for moderate accessibility for people with physical disabilities. And one thing that I don't like about accessibility, having too much accessibility, is bad in a way. Thing is because I feel like having too much accessibility take agency from the player in the game. In the games, it's not fun anymore because the player doesn't have control of the game anymore. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Um,
You know, so
um,
so
so
they
so
So there needs to be a balance between accessibility and making the game fun for people to play.
yeah.
Because
Well, as long as you design the game to where the accessibility features are a mode that players can toggle on and off, then it shouldn't have any impact. The only thing that would happen is you'd need to take more time to develop those features. But outside of that, I don't see why it couldn't just be as simple as I need these accessibility options on, so I'm going to press this button in the menu to turn them on. And for anybody else, they don't have to hit that button. So the game will play as it would if those features hadn't existed in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it kind of reminds me. Okay, so bit controversial here, but Dark Souls. Now, this is a different type of accessibility, but I'm going to bring it back into the main topic um, because uh, not everybody's going to be able to play a game where the parrying is so um, what's the word? Not on point, where the parrying timings are so small or so fast that you have to do it pretty much right as soon as the attack is coming in. Um, I don't see why in a game like that there couldn't be a way for you to make it so that the parrying time is very forgiving, where as long as you hit the button at a certain point, you'll still be able to block it,
Yeah.
or make it to where the player, I don't know, maybe auto blocking could be a way to go to deal with
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
if it doesn't register you as having blocked, the game will just block for you. Um,
Yeah.
because I you know we know that Dark Souls and games like those are very popular and have a pretty big player base. And
Yeah. But
who's to
I would
say
never. I never try that game because I know that I will never be able to play it.
right? But if
Uh,
these kinds of features were implemented,
yeah.
you would be able to play it, or you'd at least have the option to play it,
Yeah.
even if you weren't interested in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because one thing that I want to make clear is that I don't agree. I'm not on board with multiplayer accessibility because that will give people. I mean, games and multiplayer. I don't necessarily agree that those games should have accessibilities. Uh because that will give those players that will give me a advantage against other players. So that won't be
Yeah,
fair. But
yeah,
I am strictly referring to single player games.
right. And in all honesty, somebody who would be having difficulty at playing games in general, they wouldn't be playing multiplayer. They wouldn't be playing something like Mortal Kombat anyway, because that requires fast button presses. That requires learning how to do combos. It's very similar to QuickTime events in that respect. So somebody who already has difficulty with QTEs is not going to be able to play a Mortal Kombat game anyway, and it probably wouldn't be up their alley.
Yeah, yeah. One, one thing that I'm exciting that I am looking forward is something that I heard re- recently. I want to hear your opinion. The use of AI on game development and the way that will work. You see right now how we have hard, medium, easy, hard, medium difficulties with AI. If we use AI to develop the games, the AI is going to learn your your ability, and the AI will will adjust the game according to your ability or your ability in the game.
Okay, so it's similar to. I know there are games that exist already where if you're struggling at it, the game will actually lower the difficulty of the enemies. It sounds like that's what you're talking about. Um,
Yeah,
Now,
but it would be something. It would be something. It would be something at a different level. Let's say that some some gamer some gamer that is pretty good at the game might find it boring because it's too easy for him. So the game automatically would increase the difficulty. And
okay,
and
yeah,
and the same will be done if the game found that you were having too much difficulty, it would lower the difficulty.
I think what would be better um, would be if you. So, are you suggesting that you wouldn't be able to choose a difficulty from the start, like how you usually can? It just puts you into a like the hardest difficulty and then scales it down, or are you talking about you can put it on normal and will it just give you the option to make it more difficult, or will it force you into playing a game that's more difficult?
The way that I envision is that the game, yeah, yeah, let's say that you put it on normal, but the game realize that that you are you are struggling at the game, so it's going to climb the difficulty to a level that's challenging for you.
Okay, because I'll be honest with you, I don't really care for difficulty. I just want to play through a game. I don't have fun necessarily through challenge.
No, no,
So
me too, but I know people care about that stuff.
yeah, of course they do.
And
And I respect that.
and and some people think that games are too easy and they they rally behind accessibility in gaming because gaming are too easy for them.
Well, that just tells me they're not playing the right games. Because what they need to remember is that they're trying to sell to as many people as they possibly can, and most people are casuals. Most people are not interested in challenge. They just want because think of it this way, right? Imagine you've been at work all day. You've had a stressful day, or you've just had a stressful day in general. It doesn't matter if it was work or not. And you want to relax. You want to chill out. If you're somebody who wants to just relax, you might not want a game to be stressing you out more because it's got difficulty to it. You might just want a game that, and I'm not going to go so far as to say, as far as to bring in people who have stress that's so bad that it literally impacts their health, but um, like people who have high blood pressure that could be impacted by stress. I'm not trying to go that far with this, but um, it's like you know, I think there's a fair amount of people in that column who don't want challenge, or if they do, they want it to be very minimal. Um, they don't want it to be frustrating them. Um, so,
Could I could I be could I disagree with you? Uh
of course,
yeah, in my case, I would say that I want challenge. I don't want I I want to play a game to a point that that I know that I can beat it, but that I will struggle in the process. Like
Right.
Anna, Anna. I am not. I am not. I don't mind dying a couple of times because when you die a couple of times and then you make it, it's more gratifying that way.
Right.
Mm,
That, that's true. Um, and I don't and I wasn't. It might have sounded like I was taking it this far. I don't. I when I said no challenge, I didn't mean you turn on the game, you walk up to an enemy, you press attack, and every enemy just immediately
no,
dies. Because it probably sounded like that's what I meant. I
no,
just
no, no,
meant,
no, 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 no. But let me tell you what I realized. I was playing Spider-Man 2 on the PS5, and that is a setting on that game that you won't die. You won't die. I tried.
ah,
I tried. And, it don't matter what you do, you won't die. You
that's
you
very
won't
interesting.
you will fail a mission because you did not meet the mission criteria, but you will not die for from an enemy attack.
You just gave me a crazy idea, and I doubt it would ever happen. What if you had this feature where you could make it so that the health never goes down? So if it's somebody who really wanted to, they could play through an entire game without ever losing health. And that's a mode that you could turn on and turn off again.
But at that point, it's just a movie.
No, because you're still pressing buttons. You're still pressing buttons. You're still interacting with the game. Now, um, my thought for that, I know it's not really accessibility related, but a fun thing that could
And,
come from that
and
is,
I'm
what if
sorry
you?
when you finish. I just want to tell you this is what I want the channel to be like.
Okay. So
Conversation like this. It doesn't have to be about gaming. It doesn't have to be about gaming or handicap issues. But I want conversations like this, not
yeah,
politics related.
right. I mean, maybe at some point. Um,
Yeah.
but like, imagine you want to get better at a game, and you want to be able to learn the mechanics, and you want to be able to do things better than you've been able to. But you also realize that if you dial up the difficulty, you're going to die a lot, and you don't want the frustration of that. So you pretty much want a training mode where you can learn the controls. It'll force you in time to come to grips with it, but you won't have to worry about dying over and over and over and over and over and over. So you use this mode where it, let's say, sets the difficulty up to max or whatever difficulty you want to play it on. You go in there, your health will never decrease, and then once you've mastered that section of the game, once you've mastered that part of the game without losing health, it could almost be gratifying to say, I kind of went into a training mode through this game so that I could play it at maximum difficulty. And now I can be like those other players who do no hit runs.
Yeah. Yeah. That that could be a good idea. That could be a good idea. But what do you think about that thing that I told you about that accessibility setting in in Spider-Man 2 that you cannot die? What do you think about that? What is your opinion?
I think it's great. Um, you know, I'm going to be honest though, getting back to that game, because I did play two. I did. If we're referring to the one that has Miles Morales in it,
Yeah.
I did play two.
And you play.
This will sound controversial and probably anger a lot of people, but to be honest, I don't care because it's my opinion.
Yeah, who
I
cares? Go
wish,
ahead.
I wish they had made it to where people who don't care for the MJ sections, because trust me, there's still a lot of people that hate those MJ sections. I really wish they had made it so that you could skip those sections if you wanted to and just play any relevant cutscenes. Because I hated those segments. They were not fun. I don't really care for stealth unless it's, fairly easy. Um, there was maybe one or two other sections in the beginning, earlier parts of the game that did not revolve around combat. And I'm sorry, when I'm playing a Spider-Man game, I just want to swing around and beat up thugs. I don't want to be walking around as Mary Jane, even if she has some kind of gun that shoots webbing. I don't want to be doing that. So I
Yeah,
would have much preferred it if you could have just pressed pause, hit skip, and gotten through that section without playing it.
yeah. You could I give you my perspective on that right quick? My
Hmm.
perspective on that is similar to yours. My perspective on that is that we should have the ability and not in that game, but in every single game to skip anything that we want because we are paying for the game.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Or a caveat could be once the player has struggled enough times and the game recognizes that,
Yeah,
it then asks you, do you want to skip this?
yeah, yeah. It,
Yeah,
it, it should do that. But that should be like industry standard, not
yeah.
not not something. Some games have that. Some funny games have that. I think God of War Ragnarok has something like that.
I have Ragnarok, and I don't remember that, but I will take your word for it.
I don't know if Ragnarok has it. I don't know if Ragnarok has it, but Ragnarok has a lot of accessibility that's overwhelming. I love that game, by the way.
I don't doubt it. We're talking about God of War Ragnarok, right?
Yeah, in 2018 also has a lot of accessibilities that is
Wait,
in.
no, Ragnarok wasn't 2018. You're talking
No,
about
no, Ragnarok wasn't in 2018, but there was another game that dropped in
right,
2018.
right.
And that game was great too.
Actually, speaking of accessibility and skipping parts, I really wish that Anger Boda part with Atreus, I wish there was an option to skip all of that because that was
Yeah,
boring. Um, and I understand developers wanting to put sections in a game that they class as being a break from the gameplay, but if a person wants to take a break from the gameplay, they'll just turn the game off. They don't
yeah,
need mini games or unrelated content to be in that game. When you buy a God of War game, you want an action game. You don't want to be
yeah,
riding around with a girl you just met, and going on this really slow journey that takes like an hour to get through. You just would prefer, I think, in at least some cases, to say, skip this. I only want to see the cutscenes. I don't care about the gameplay in this. I'm here for an action game. Um, and it also goes into, I think, accessibility because look at walking simulator sections where they just move really slow. And why not just make it so that instead of having to instead make it so that if you want to get through a section like that faster, you can hit the run button or again just skip it. there's such a. I'm going way off topic here because this is no longer about accessibility.
No,
But
no, no, no. You wrong. You are wrong because there's a lot of games, a lot of sections on games that I just wish that I could skip
yeah,
because I
that
don't
doesn't mean.
I don't I don't care for them.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's like
I
I'm cool with games being more cinematic. But if the cinematics impact the gameplay in a negative way, that's when I don't care for it. And that's one of the reasons why QTEs were such a big thing, because they were seen as making the games more cinematic. However, not everybody can physically do quick time events. There are people that struggle to do that.
yeah, yeah. I'm one of them.
Yeah, and you're not alone. I'm sure you're not in a very small minority.
I'm one of them. I and let me tell you, I can play the God of War games, the old games pretty good, but I can I when I get to the QTE, when I get to the section that you have to press the buttons, then I start dying because I need to take my time and
Yeah,
sometimes and sometimes so those games they take a lot from me physically because although I might be able to do it, but it's very difficult.
yeah, that makes sense. Um, I mean, plus doesn't help that certain enemies require a QTE to kill them. Like
Yeah,
in some instances, it's optional. It just means you deal the finishing blow, or you continue fighting them the regular way, and it takes longer to fell an enemy. But in some cases, it's required that you use quick time events.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, and that gives me an idea. That gives me an idea. What if you have the QTEs, but they are like optional?
yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and, let's say that I'm playing God of War and that I fail the QTE. I just continue the fight and be the villain. The you know the gameplay, for lack of a better term, just the regular way like I will be or, or any other enemy. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. Yeah. Even as somebody who doesn't necessarily struggle with QTs because
Yeah.
I can kind of do them, although even I struggle with them. It would be great to not have to rely on to not make it where it's mandatory. Um,
Yeah.
it's I don't know if this is the same thing, but it's kind of like how I am with puzzles. I'm not good at puzzles, and so for me, I understand that I can go online and I can look up solutions and I can follow a guide to do those puzzles. But for me, and I'm not talking about mini games here. I'm talking about like mandatory stuff, not optional. Um, I think for mandatory puzzles, a way to skip the puzzle would be a great thing to have because if you're not good at puzzles and you, let's say, want to play a Zelda game because you like the gameplay outside of that, why not just make it to where you can hit a skip button or you can simplify the puzzle to where it's very dumbed down and you can just get through it. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but there have been instances I'm
The
sure
la-
where
the
I've
last of
not.
Us- the Last of Us 1 and 2 in PS5 have that accessibility.
Oh, cool! I didn't know that.
Yeah,
But
they do.
there's definitely been games where a puzzle. prevented me, and not just puzzles, but depending on what you qualify as a puzzle. I know there's been sections in games where I didn't know what to do, and I think something what I would want to see is if the game would just flat out tell you, hey, since you've been taking a long time to do this, if you want me to just tell you the solution to, let's say you're in a room and it's not really obvious to you what you have to do, I think it would be awesome if the game would put up a message saying, I see you're struggling here. Would you like me to tell you what to do? Um, I'm pretty sure it was one of the more recent Tomb Raider games where this happened to me. Because where it definitely was one of the more recent Tomb Raider games. And something that should be
Yeah.
super
It has
obvious
to be.
was not right in front of my face. So, you know, being able to just know the answer, know the solution, or be pushed in the right direction, you can either have it solved for you, be told what to do, or just be given a hint in the right direction.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, but I don't know why. I don't know what those games do. Do you do you do you say that you don't like puzzles, right?
for the most part.
Because I am the same way, and and sometimes and sometimes it's and sometimes that's because I I I miss to see something in the screen that was that was required to complete that puzzle, and I need to go on YouTube.
Yes. Um, Actually, here's a great example. Cyberpunk 2077. So there's a part of that game, in the very beginning of it, that I just could not figure out. And even after looking it up on YouTube, it didn't make sense. And other people are having the same problem. For a section like that, I think it would be great if you could just skip to the cutscene, or the game can just tell you, pretty much talk you through it as you're doing it. Maybe have one of the characters in the game actually say, "This, do this, do this, do this, do this" in fine detail. Because one of the things that I struggle with, and I'm not trying to claim that this is a thing for everybody who's autistic, but one of the things I struggle with, and I know it's because of the fact that I'm on the spectrum, is sometimes I need things to be broken down in very small parts for me to be able to absorb it all. If you're just
No,
putting me somewhere and saying this is what you have to do, that's not always enough for me to grasp the solution to the problem. So, in that game's case, just having it spelled out for me in fine detail would have, I definitely wouldn't have stopped playing because of that.
yeah, yeah. So so that could be an accessibility that games can implement to improve your quality of gameplay,
Yes.
because be- and puzzles are something that I struggle with. It's not because I'm artistic, but it's because sometimes I miss some things that might be obvious on the screen. I miss them, and it take me a while to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Um,
And you know, what I do, what happens is that I go on YouTube.
and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of the design mentality. is they figure, well, if people are really struggling with this, they can go online and figure it out. But
Yeah,
why couldn't
but
you just design
but
it to
I
where the
but I
game
should
does
not.
that for you?
I, yeah, but I should not have to go on YouTube to be to to be able to play a game.
Exactly. And another thing, because I know there are some who might argue, well, if you do it that way, you're not going to learn, because what a puzzle can do is it can help you exercise your mind by challenging yourself. But what if doing that, maybe not so much have the game do it for you, but maybe the game teaches you how to complete that puzzle. Like it doesn't, obviously it doesn't sit down with you as like a voice and say, I see you're struggling here, this is what you should do, and this is what I would do, and just help you see the solution for yourself. Because I know that's probably going to be way too involved. But if you were to do it that way, you know, it's like the person still found the solution on their own, but they had enough help to do it.
I I think if the game just give you good hands about it, it will be
Yeah,
enough.
yeah, I agree. I think that's probably true for the most part.
And in the way in the way they should do that. One of the ways that I get upset when I do puzzles is that it's not always obvious where you need to go.
Yes, it
I
can be.
I don't I don't I don't know if you start with that, because sometimes I found that it's not always obvious where you need to jump or where you need to do something.
Oh, same
And
here. I have that problem.
and and I'm not consider myself to be an intelligent person, but I don't know. I never been able to click.
Well, it's not about intelligence. I mean, sometimes we overthink things, right? Sometimes we expect the solution to be a lot harder than it actually is, and vice versa. So it has nothing to do
Yeah,
with intelligence. It doesn't mean that you're not an intelligent person because you can't make it past a part in the game. I'm sure there are people who are very intelligent, and because they don't have any experience playing games, they're not going to know what to do. Um, it's kind of reminds me. I was playing one of the Mario games, um, and there's a collectible in each level. There's a series of collectibles. There's four collectibles, and there's like these three green stars. And if you want to get all three green stars, you have to basically locate them, and it's not always obvious where you need to go. Um, Sometimes you don't even know how you're supposed to jump to get to the next part of the stage. So, I think that kind of fits in too, where if you don't know where you're supposed to jump or where you're supposed to go to look for these stars, um, you know, the game. I
you
mean, I don't expect Nintendo to do this, but you know, if the game could kind of point you in the right direction.
you know you
Um,
know you know which game is good about that? Horizon from Given West. You know about
I've
that, friend?
Oh, I have it. It's just been a long time since I played it last.
Because Horizon has it's always pointing you the way that you need to go.
Yeah,
How,
it's funny.
however, there are some sections in the games that doesn't work, and I don't know why.
I don't know. Um, what's really funny, and I know this is going off topic, but what's really funny is the fact that I never finished uh, Zero Dawn, but I did finish Forbidden West.